Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers here at Campaign for America. Welcome to our broadcast tonight in Canada. Well, before I get started, folks, a couple of things. The last slide that said donate. If you'd like to donate, don't donate. Don't do anything yet with our website. I'm going to explain to you why in a minute. So just hold on to your contributions. Anyone who has contributed to us, we do have all of that, all of your contributions. So let me get to a couple of things before I get to that point. We're living in exciting times, folks. We have an exciting guest tonight, a gentleman who I got a chance to talk to earlier, who's going to give us a good idea as to what has been going on in Canada and the progress that the Canadian people are making. And that's what this broadcast is all about. We're going to look at some of the problems every week, but we're also going to look at solutions. And I'm very, very confident that the Canadian people are going down a road to victory, folks, to victory. I remember here in the United States when Joe Biden took office and the Democrats took control of the Congress, I remember there were predictions that there would be very difficult days, dire days, days of depression, days that would be upsetting. But I also remember there were just a few people in that group that said, wait a minute, we're going to win. We're going to move forward. We're going to do things within the framework of the law. We're going to work together and we're going to win. And we are winning. Just a few more weeks, folks, 2 more weeks, maybe 3. November 8th, we're going to see a red wave of Republican victories across this country from school boards all the way to the United States Congress. And I know that there are other leaders around the world that are watching closely what's happening to America. And I know Trudeau and some of his friends, if you will, in Beijing and other places around the world are watching closely. So maybe it's good they're watching. They get a chance to see how they're going to topple. They're going to topple because the people are going to rise up in peace. They're going to rise up working within the framework of the law, and they're going to rise up and they're going to tear down these evil ideologies of communism, evil doctrines that are coming out of their offices with absolutely no checks and balances. Well, there is a check and there is a balance, and it's called We the People. Now, why did I share with you not to send any donations in until we give you the okay? And by the way, I thank all of you who have responded to our call for contributions. But now's not the time to do it because we took an extraordinary step with regard to PayPal. We fired them. PayPal was making a lot of money off a Campaign for America because when people would donate, as you know, when they would contribute and when they would buy certain items out of some of our stores, PayPal would get a piece of the action, right? They give you a surcharge or this charge or that charge, and that's the way they make their money. Well, they made a fatal mistake with us. To begin, and not only with us, folks, let me tell you, I've spoken to conservatives all over the United States, and PayPal is in serious financial straits right now. But here's what they did. Now, we've been with them for 2 years. We've been very faithful, very good, never had a problem with them. But all of a sudden, their executives or somebody in the upper echelon of the PayPal pyramid decided that they're going to set the rules with regard as to what we, and this is how I interpret it, okay? So I'm not going to say that this is factual, but I'm sure when you read it, you'll understand what I'm driving at. I always say in my view because it hinders and cripples the ability of the fact checkers to say we're wrong. So this is my view. After looking at their new policies, many of us here at Campaign for America concluded that PayPal, they want to censor organizations like ours. They want to censor, again, in our view, conservatives. They want to censor people who are standing up for freedom and liberty. So instead of outright censoring them, they decide to introduce new regulations and new policies that would do a couple of things. Number one, they really, truly want to, in their new rules and regulations and policies, determine what content would be good, what content would be factual, what content we put on the air, what we publish, and on and on and on. Would work within the framework of their policies. In other words, they would be the thought police. They would be the speech police. They would be policing everything. And if they found something that they didn't like on the air, for instance, on this broadcast, they would simply shut us down, not off the air, but they would shut the financial flow that would be coming in to keep us alive. So that's what they did. Arbitrarily just did that. Now, here's something really interesting. PayPal, the Trudeaus of the world, the Stalins and the Marx and the Lenins and the President Xi's of China, all these individuals, right, who think they've got a lot of power, but it's about this much when it's compared to the power of the people. So anyway, PayPal puts out this information that not only are they going to become the thought police of the social media platforms and publications, but they're going to fine you $2,500. Now, you can't, in this country, you can't do that. Private companies can't arbitrarily fine you, all right, punish you like that. You got to go to court. But what they did was, there was so much backlash, they backed off, all right? They said, no. It was, now get this, folks, get this now. It was misinformation. Their policies are based on determining that what we put out as conservatives or people that they disagree with, misinformation. They're so stupid, they were the first one that violated their own policy by putting out misinformation and admitted to it. So they withdrew their $2,500 cost or fine or whatever they want to call it. But with that came an avalanche of people just dismantling and getting rid of and firing PayPal. And so based on that, based on the values that they have compared to the values that we have, well, we took every single one of their PayPal accounts off of our social media platforms, and the people that work with us, I understand, have also removed them. Now, the latest report I got, and this is a report, again, look these up to make sure they are factual, is that the shareholders are not happy, that PayPal, combined with the economy and the inflation of what's going on here, are losing millions and maybe billions of dollars in revenue. Now, this tells me something, folks. It tells me that we have always had the power. We have always had the power of the purse, and all we need is to use it. Why would we want to send a company money that is doing what? That is crippling our ability to exercise our freedom of speech and our freedom of worship. Now, there's something I didn't know that somebody told me, and maybe when I speak to our guest, he could confirm this, that PayPal, and of course, we're going to talk facts, all right, that PayPal had something to do with freezing or disrupting the financial contributions of people who were donating to the convoy, the Freedom Convoy. Now, I don't know that as fact. Maybe our guest can tell us a little bit about that. But if that's the case, I got to tell you, folks, I wouldn't trust them like I wouldn't trust Trudeau. And boy, that's not trusting, period. So they're gone. Now, so we're asking people not to donate until we set up a new server, all right, which is being worked on as we're speaking. And hopefully in a couple of days we could do that. So what do you think of that, folks? I tell you, they lose. They always lose. They stumble amongst themselves and they lose. So we win on this. And my prediction, okay, and for the fact checkers and those people in Facebook land and all that are watching, my view, my opinion, based on what I see, PayPal, within a short period of time, the way things are going, are going to be sent to the ash bin of history with the Communist Party, with the dictators, with the people on this planet who do not have any sense of what it is to be free and have individual rights. That's where they're going to go. So let's watch and see. I'm glad I'm part of helping them enter into the abyss of hell, if you will. Now, so then we have something else that comes out today, maybe yesterday. The Center for Disease Control, get a load of that. You know, that unelected group of political operatives, probably more so we could define them as political hacks, because that's what they are. You know, I don't like to call names, but the fact is, you know, what a hack is: a person appointed by a politician, and that individual has to jump when the politician says jump. So here we go. So this is what I did earlier, and I did get a response from it. I like to read what I put out so there's no misinterpretation. All right, so the Center for Disease Control and Prevention Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices voted unanimously to approve CDC's new recommended immunization schedules for adults and children for 2023, which adds the vax for COVID-19. The CDC is a non-elected body that should be dismantled. That's what I said. So here's the deal, folks. The Center for Disease Control, and we shared this with the American people earlier. Don't get all excited. Don't get all worked up. That is not an elected body. They're political hacks. They're political operatives that have to do what they're told when it comes to setting up standards like this. And who knows where the money comes from? We could guess, we could figure it out when it comes to all these regulations, but they're not an elected body. And already there's been a huge negative response across the country. And the fact of the matter is that I don't think you're going to see those regulations enforced here. And by the way, from what I heard earlier, and I believe I heard it myself, I was going through some TV channels, Governor Ron DeSantis has already stated, from what I understand, that they will not enforce any regulations like this upon the children of Florida. What do you think of that, folks? So maybe we're going to have more Republican governors jump on board, which I'm sure they will. And here's the key to success. I tweeted this out just after that. Parents need to fight for their rights and protect their children from government overreach and control with regard to medical issues. The individual rights that you have extend to your right to say yes or no to a medical procedure. So parents from coast to coast must organize and march to the polls on November 8th here in the United States and defeat every single Democrat and liberal. Now think about this, folks. Every single one of them, from every level of government, from school boards to Congress. And I added this, that most politicians care little about your children and more about their political careers. It's time to send them packing. Now, I've been in politics a good part of my adult life. I told you, you know my background, been elected to office, served in office. I know politics inside out and upside down, and I know something about politicians. Not all of them. We have some real good ones there, but not as many as we should. But most of them, they don't care about us. They only care about one thing, getting the vote. And man, I'll tell you, what a time for the CDC to come out with this, because the people in this country are going to give the CDC, the Democrats and the liberals, their answer on November 8th. So you keep an eye on that, folks. Kind of, this little domino effect is going to go north. Believe me, it's going to go north. So I'm kind of excited over what's happening here. Because remember, we're together in this fight. See, it says America and Canada, we're in this fight together. Well, we're going to stay together and we're going to win together. And finally, before we bring our guest on, Sunday night, 7:30 p.m., I'm going to have a fireside chat. Isn't that great? Great response we've had on these chats. In fact, someone reminded me, and I know she's watching, reminded me earlier in the week and asked me, are we going to have a fireside chat? And I said, you know what? It's a good idea. And what's a fireside chat? It's kind of us sitting around the virtual fireplace, and all I'm doing is for 20 minutes is talking about how the good Lord, how God Almighty is involved in your life and has brought you at this time in your life to do what you're doing with regard to the fight for freedom and liberty. And everything we're talking about is not political. It's all scriptural. That's what's great about what we're doing here at Campaign for America. All right, so let's get our guest on. A terrific guy, a guy that's really been on the front lines. And for the American audience and those from around the world who are watching, you're going to want to hear what this fellow has to say. So I now introduce Mr. Ron Clark. Ron, thanks for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me on as well, too. So,
Ron, I love your flags, by the way.
Oh, thank you. This one, right? This Canadian one here. This is the one that was flown down in on the American side. Soup Mama gave it to me on the border exchange. So I'm honored to have that one here. So.
Thank you. Ron, for the benefit of the audience from people that are around in different countries and here in the United States, would you give a little bit of a background on yourself and then work into how you got involved with the freedom movement in your country?
Yeah, I can do that. Well, I worked in oil and gas sector for at least half of my life, and then pretty much retired, not by choice. But sitting around watching the news, watching the people, watching what's happening here. And then, back in last year when we were on the ledge grounds in Edmonton with the teepees and, watching the police come in and destroy all that stuff and kick the clan mothers and stuff down, it was very upsetting to me. And then the call came for Ottawa. And so I was heeing and hawing about that. And like I said, I sat there and, okay, am I going to go? And I went on January 24th. was the day we left to go into Ottawa to drive across the country. And that's pretty much where everything started from. And like I said, we haven't stopped fighting since then. But that journey across our country, the people that stood up on the side of the roads, thanking us, thanking truckers, calling us heroes, flying the Canadian flags, the American flags, all kinds of flags. It was just 4 days of emotional crying in a truck driving across the country. It was the most beautiful thing you can ever see or be a part of. And I'm glad I took part of that. And that's where everything started with in Ottawa. When we arrived into Ottawa, it was just something magical. You had to be there to witness it. Like seeing it on video or on the television, it's not the same. It was not the same.
Ron, one thing that impressed me about you, and we have a team, and before we ask anybody to come on the air, we do some little background on them, and we look at some of their public statements, and we did with you. One theme that I found that you have made throughout a lot of your broadcasting and public speaking is something that I haven't heard that much from people, but you truly, truly have talked about people being peaceful. Do this within the framework of the law. Be peaceful. I mean, you said it so many times. I said, boy, I'll tell you, this is kind of refreshing to hear that, because you're looked upon as a leader now, and people are listening to you. You're an influencer in Canada, but you're the type of influencer I think that many countries need to kind of lower the temperature, because in the end, as evidenced by what you and the Canadian people and the truckers have done, you really win when you take the approach that you've recommended, which is peaceful.
Well, that's exactly it. Like we're not violent people. We were never violent inside, but it's the government, who divides us and separates us from our family and our friends. We have to keep it peaceful. That's who we are. Like we don't need violence to show that we can do things. The key thing, like you said earlier, when I was listening here, it's coming together and uniting together and standing as one. That's where the power comes in. You don't need violence for any of that stuff. And that's why I keep pushing that, we have to stay peaceful. That's who we are as Canadian citizens around the world. They look at us as peaceful people until January 23rd, when we took off to go to Ottawa and stand our ground from the government's overreach. It's heart-wrenching to see the division amongst everybody. It's not who we are.
Well, I've got to tell you, and I've probably said this a million times. I even say it when I'm speaking to people around the country here and around the world. It took the truckers in Canada to expose not only what's going on in Canada, but to expose what's going on around the world with regard to the WEF, the UN, the WHO, and on and on and on. And because of the peaceful approach, as you say, that the Canadian truckers took, what was exposed to the people were peaceful protesters, if you will, but violent government. Now, look, I'm a law enforcement officer for 38 years, and I've said over and over again, I have never seen police officers behave in the way they did, even in the city of New York. Let me tell you, in the city of New York, where there's violence, I mean, those cops in Canada, they want to face violent people. They really, do you think that they think they have the courage to stand up to what we have to take in this country? Well, they ought to come down here. Those cops that did those offenses against the people of Canada, they'll run with their tail between their legs. It's easy for a cop to use the power of the government over people that feel hopeless and helpless and are peaceful. But it's a whole different story when you're confronting violent people. And so I was just appalled. I was appalled. Now, that's not to indict the entire police forces in Canada. I know the people in Canada love their cops. In fact, I've got to tell you, Ron, and maybe you could attest to this, some of the videos I saw were also astounding as well as appalling. When women and men would go up to the cops and have conversations with them, ask them if they wanted, I think, hot chocolate or something, and the cops would be talking to them. Not enough of that was seen by the people around the world. But what was seen was the violent acts that were committed against the people. And I've said all along, Ron, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, and I've said this here in this country, people who break the law, who are violent, who attack cops, who attack property, who burn buildings, they need to be dealt with as much force as possible so that other people aren't hurt. But when you look at the truckers in Canada, man, there was not even a stick thrown. You were there.
Oh, I was there. And like I said, or like you just said, not all the police force. There were so many amazing police officers in Ottawa walking the street. A lot of them were nodding. Some of them gave little fist pumps and stuff. But no, those police, they didn't want to be there. And if I don't know how many people are watching. The whole world should be watching the inquiry that's going on right now for when Trudeau invoked the Emergency Act on its own people. But listening to the government, it sounds like not all of them wanted to do what they did. It's like they were forced to do that stuff. Forced. Nobody wants to beat up another person. And those police officers, like I said, a lot of them were amazing officers, men and women. We stood toe to toe to them on that front line, and some of them were crying. They didn't want to be there. So, like I said, we can't say they're all bad.
And, well, Ron, you're right. And I've said to people, police and military personnel, they're our kids. They're our grandkids. I mean, they live down the street from us. And I believe you because I've seen it here. Cops don't want to be put in a position where they become political pawns, like here in the United States. Look, I worked at FBI headquarters, right, as a military intel officer. I worked with FBI agents my whole life as a police lieutenant in New Jersey. Greatest people in the world are the agents, are the people on the ground. But unfortunately, the government weaponizes them and puts them in a terrible, terrible position. So I would say that, as has happened here, the government is weaponizing law enforcement to perhaps threaten, bully, scare the people to death so that they won't do anything to oppose government policies. But it's worked in reverse. And here's something that you and I talked about earlier, and I want to expound upon this because, you see, by talking to you, you're of like mind with me on a few things. Here's what I fear. I don't fear much, but here's what I fear, and then I'm going to hand it to you. I fear that the governments, whether it be in Canada, Germany, France, England, United States, is going to push the people so far that there are going to be groups that are going to be totally out of control, and they're going to be doing things that you and I would never, never want to see happen. I'm worried about that here in America. I don't want to see us end up in a situation where America is going to be divided to a point where they're going to be fighting each other, Americans. The governments need to understand, people like you, people like Mr. Peckford and others we've had on the air, they need to listen to, because you're the ones they're going to have to go to say, please calm people down. And we're talking to people now all over the world. You don't listen to anybody that's going to go down a road that is unlawful and that is going to commit acts of violence. And I think hearing it from you tonight and me hearing it from you tells me something about your character and the true character of the Canadian people, because you're very well liked up there. I mean, you're getting to be well liked here. I'm watching these feeds here. So I'm going to hand it to you now. Tell us about that, the fear, all right? The concern, more concern than a fear.
Well, like I've said many times, eventually nice people are going to do bad things because we're forced that way, because of the government is dividing us so much that we have hatred amongst each other. And what's going to happen is we're going to start fighting each other. And we're going to end up, like you said, we're going to end up down a road where it's not going to be peaceful anymore. And it's not by choice. Well, I guess it would be, but we're going to be forced to do this because the government is pushing and pushing and pushing us right to the breaking point. And I just wish people could open up their eyes. Well, they are. There's a lot of people that are waking up slowly, and we're getting more and more every day. It's not as fast as we would like. The government is so far ahead of us, but we just keep throwing wrenches into their plans and let them know that we're not going anywhere. We are not going anywhere. We will not back down without a fight. That I can guarantee, because we love our countries, and the people in this countries are amazing people. But when a government forces you to do bad things, it's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, and it's the hatred that we got to deal with. You would think that here, knowing our history, that the people will not tolerate, only to a certain point, and that I'm concerned about the people that are not leaders; they're just out of control.
You know, and that
And so
that blows my mind. I know Americans. We're like, I've been into 50 states. We travel into the states all the time, and I've met a lot of Americans. We have a lot of American friends, and I know you guys are explosive. I don't know how you guys can sit back for this amount of time and do nothing.
I'll answer the question. We are doing something, and it's working. And I get it. I understand. We want to preserve our republic. We want to preserve the Constitution of the United States. If we resort to methods that violate that Constitution, and we become a country that is completely out of control, a few things could happen. This is what we're aware of. When we do that, we're at our weakest point. President Xi is watching. Vladimir Putin's watching. Vicious enemies in Iran are watching. They may take advantage of a great divided country fighting with each other, and we won't have a country left. That's number one. Number two, Ron, we truly believe that we can achieve goals like our transition of power is incredible. When a president leaves and a new president comes in, and that happens all over the country with elective offices. So we believe there are two things helping us out here. First and foremost, and truly we believe this, our deep-rooted faith in God. A country that is founded on Judeo-Christian values, where a Savior, where a God has never let us down, never. Jesus Christ never let us down, and so we believe in that, and we believe deeply when we read about Washington and Lincoln and Reagan and on and on and on. In a lot of their speeches, they made it clear that without the Bible, without the principles that we were founded on, we're going to be a country destroyed. So deep rooted in our hearts is those principles. And we believe, and now we're seeing the fruition of peaceful opposition to the government. We believe with good organization and good leaders with good skills who are emphasizing put your faith to work, but also do it peaceful and within the framework of the law, it works. We're watching it work. And as I said earlier, come November 8th, we're going to clean out the United States Congress. And the people we want elected that are going to represent us are going to be there without any violence, without firing one shot, without being involved in anything that we know is wrong. So, yeah, we have been progressing, and you're going to see it all come to fruition in a couple of weeks. But I understand, like yourself, people are saying, how's it you guys have been able to put a lid on this? Because the people are listening to people like myself, like you, like others around this country who are very influential in saying, look, if Ron is saying calm down, I'm going to calm down. If the lieutenant's saying I'm calm down, I'm going to calm down. You want to know why, Ron? Think about this one. They trust us. They trust us. I don't know of any politician, maybe a handful that I could trust. I trust God, really. But I think people trust you. They trust me. They trust Brian Peckford. I mean, you go right past Arthur, Tobias. I mean, the people I've met, they're very, very trustworthy people. So that's how we've been able to keep the lid on it.
You guys got some really good candidates coming up down there. And, hopefully they get in. Hopefully they can change things for the better. Because liberal and the Democrats are destroying our countries. And people don't see it. The problem is too many people are soft nowadays. They allow things to happen so easily. Like a friend of mine, Mark Friesen, like he said, if this was 5-10 years ago and they told you to stick a mask on your face, you needed a QR code to go to a restaurant, you need to take a vaccine just in order to go to work, you got to stay home. You can't go see your loved ones in the hospital, your grandparents at the retirement homes. If they told you that 5-10 years ago, you would have blown your mind. Not a chance. But here we are, everybody complying, because it's all those little things each and every single time that they throw at us that people are like, okay, it's just something small. But like I said, 5-10 years ago, people would have lost their minds. And they
Ron,
fell for this.
Ron, we discovered through, questions are asked us, how did we get here? How in the world did we get here where sex is being taught in elementary school? It's replaced civics. Where American history, or Canadian history in your case, has been thrown out the door, and we're taught, and they're teaching our children through all kinds of things it's disgusting what they're being taught. And we discovered something. It happened. It began about 20 years ago. 20 years ago. And I've said this I love my country. I love the people here, but I also understand that as you said, they need to wake up. You know, I was a school board member before I was elected to the city council, before I ran for governor, and on and on and on. But I remember one thing very, very clearly about sitting on a school board. The 3 years I was on, Ron, I'm lucky if 15 people total in a year showed up at a school board meeting. Parents were not paying attention to what their kids were being taught. Parents were not paying attention they weren't even opening up the textbooks to see what their kids were being taught. In addition to that, there were teachers who, I tell you, teachers are the best people in the world. They're the future of our countries, right? They are really the backbone. It's the unions, the teachers' unions, at least here in America, that are destroying the educational system because they're not concerned about the children. They're concerned about their money and their benefits. And we're seeing a bit of a backlash now in America. So to answer your question, we've been, at least I'll speak, as far as I know here in America, all right? I don't know the history of your country that well, other than now, you guys, like you say, you're the kindest people in the world fighting a good fight of faith. But we have seen parents not get involved. We have seen unions influenced, in my view, and it's happened. It happened when Reagan was in office, governor of California. Before that, when he was an actor and president of the Screen Actors Guild, the Communist Party. At that time, it was the Soviet Communist Party that got very involved in influencing unions and Hollywood. The infiltration of the Communist Party was strong then. We got rid of it. Reagan got rid of it. It came back in the name of the Chinese Communist Party. And we see Chinese Communist Party influence all over this country. I see it up in Canada. So that's why we're here. Now, how does that happen? Like this, our eyes are closed. Absolutely right, Ron. And you said something very profound a few minutes ago, and then I'll hand it to you. I like the way you put it. Well, they take a little piece here. Nobody says anything. And a little piece here. Nobody says anything. And a little piece here and a little piece here. Before you know it, they got the whole pie. Now what?
We're sitting right where we're sitting today. Now, our school boards and stuff are the exact same thing over here. Nobody shows up. The parents, it's basically comes down to it. When your kid's out of control, you throw a cell phone at them, you throw a movie on, here, go deal with it, go be quiet. Nobody takes the time anymore to stand up for the children, but that's where they make their mistake, is leave the children alone. When you start coming after our children, you watch those mama bears, they will stand. And that's what's happening right now. Like a lot of the stuff that we see in the school board, I don't even want to talk about it. We already know what's in there. There's no place for that kind of stuff in our school. Go back to the math, science, reading. Like, they don't even teach handwriting anymore. The kids come out of school nowadays, they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue anymore. They don't teach them what they're supposed to teach anymore. They're completely gone. And it's so sad to see the way our society is moving. Because like I said, people are too soft nowadays. The crimes, you can have pedophiles and rapists, they're out within a day or two walking the streets to commit the crime again. But yet when you stand up for your country, for your rights and your freedoms, they'll throw you in jail and they won't even mention you. Because how long have your guys been in there? Since January 6th? They don't talk about that stuff. Just forget about them. Leave them in there. Don't even talk about them. They'll throw you in jail for months on end. For what? For standing up for your rights and your freedom? Now, if I was a criminal roaming the streets, I'd get away with more stuff. And that's the problem, is people are allowing criminals out on the streets. They're so sympathetic for them. Hey, you commit a crime, you do the time, right? That's the way it is. But then when you lock them up in prison, then you have the other side going, oh, you can't do that. It's against their human rights. Well, they should have never committed a crime in the first place. Our justice system is too soft, and that's our problem.
And our justice system ignores the other criminals, the ones that wear ties and jackets and shirts and sit behind a desk. You see, and I've said that all along. here in America, we have a real serious problem in our criminal justice system, as you just articulated. We had an incident where an individual was released after raping a young kid. Police officers were up to over 200 shot in this country over the past several months. Chicago, the blood is flowing as you and I are speaking, and these are all career criminals. So who's responsible? Two people or two groups. One, the prosecutors, they should be held accountable. The judges, the parole boards, you see, in our country, they are shielded from being sued. But I think those laws ought to change because they hold cops in this country responsible for their actions. Well, maybe we should hold judges and legislators. You see, once you hit their pocketbook, whoa, they're going to think twice before they release these characters. But my point is
about that. When you touch their pocketbook, look what happened when the borders got shut down. That's where they really got upset because they were losing money.
Right.
That's who hit them in their pockets, and they don't like that.
Well, you follow the green, right? You follow the flow of money, and like we did with PayPal, and like we're doing with other companies, we're going to be able to shut them down economically. The point is that there's another group of people responsible, and that's the people. That's the people who constantly, yell at their TV sets. They scream at the news, and I hear it all the time. Somebody ought to do something about it. Why don't you do something about it? Why not? Right? I mean, you're doing your part. I'm doing my part. And I'm saying a lot of people do all kinds of different things. People that can't physically do things, they pray, they get involved in school boards. They should run for office. But my point is this, Ron, more people, in my view, and weigh in on this, should truly meet with people in their neighborhoods or meet with some friends and say, look, here's what we could do within the framework of the law. And you know what people can do? Many, many, many things. And I think what we're doing tonight and what we do here on this broadcast, educate people. You know that the American people, for the most part, had no idea what was going on in Canada until the truckers decided to take the action they did. And until we got on the air here, Campaign for America, and other live streams got on the air, and Tucker Carlson on Fox got on the air and decided to expose what was going on in Canada. Could you imagine? All this was going on in your country. And you hear the word Canada, it was like paradise to us. Go to Canada. They're peaceful. They're loving people. And this was a shock and continues to remain a shock because what we see happening with the Trudeau government is almost a national security threat to our country right here in the United States. And you're fighting to stop it from coming here.
And exactly, it's just so sad. And you know what the crazy part? We have provinces, you guys have states. So it'd be like you're in your own state and you talk to people and they have no idea what happened in Ottawa. And you're right in the same province and they have no idea. It's like, how do you not know what's going on? Well, censorship. It's like Facebook. They'll only put what they want you to see unless you go digging for it. And when you go digging for it, you start share. Once it gets shared numerous amount of times, you mess with the algorithm and they can't stop them all. And then it starts leaking out everywhere. But they'll only put on that TV or on your device what they want you to see. Because there's no way an hour down the road that you have a city locked up and you have no idea. How does that work?
Yeah, people aren't talking. Ron, a couple of things. I catch something on these feeds. There's two things I want to address. Someone posted that people look down upon the Canadian flag, but I'm still proud of my country. I want that person to know is that we're actually looking up to the Canadian flag. The world is. I've been in touch with people all over this planet, for goodness sakes, in different countries. They see this flag, folks. They see this flag, and they see this flag. This is their hope. Nothing like what we're doing in America and in Canada is going on in any other country, and in the way we're doing it. Look at that, Ron. Right, Ron has it. There's pride. There's honor.
That flag right here, it was so beautiful to see that almost every country around the world was flying that flag, and they called it the flag of freedom, the flag of hope. Now, that's got to touch you.
Sure, it does.
And when people say, "Oh, well, you didn't do nothing in Ottawa," I'm sorry, we did a lot more than you know, because just look what happened around the world, not just here in Canada. We shook the world from what we did, and these flags right here are being flying everywhere. There's no disgrace to this flag,
No, not
and
just like this.
as
I,
flying this flag is disgraceful, I'm sorry. No.
Here in New Jersey, we have a lot of Canadians visit here in the summer, our shore area. And those flags are flying. And to my pleasant surprise, and I've shared this with people in this audience, even in my neighborhood, in the community I live in, I've seen Canadian flags flying. And that's pride, that's honor. So be proud right here, folks. You know what? When this is displayed, and these are symbols of freedom, like Ron said, symbols of hope for the world. You think Justin Trudeau, Joe Biden, and some of these other sympathizers of the Communist Party and ideology, you think they want to see these flags together? They're scared to death. They're scared to death of this, folks, because we're standing together, and they can't divide us. They could look. The Communist Party, folks, modus operandi: bully people, intimidate people, put fear into people, take their God away, make sure they have no hope left, and that's everything they do. But the only way they succeed, Ron, right, is we allow them to succeed. So the point is, we're not afraid of them, which sickens them. They're really afraid of us.
100% there. And like what we did in Ottawa, scared the crap out of the government. It actually scared Sleepy Joe Biden over there as well, because he's the one that told Mr. Trudeau here, use your federal powers and shut this down. Because a lot of people don't understand what happens in the United States trickles into Canada. They're kind of together. So that many people standing and rising together scared the government. Okay, that's what we did. Scared the government, because they were never expecting us Canadians to stand up and say, okay, we're done. Enough is enough. You're not pushing us around anymore. And it started to ripple across the world, and it's scaring them. So their new agenda is speeding up, because we threw one big wrench into their plans, and they didn't like it.
And you're right. It was one big wrench, and it went worldwide, and that's something they did not expect. Another thing is that, when we talk about faith and we talk about God and we talk about country, they don't like that, because the goal of the Communist Party is to make sure at all costs that they're not going to have anybody, including God, to lean on. And so they don't like that. I mean, I have not heard many politicians talk about God. That's why I loved Ronald Reagan. Every speech he made, he talked about Christ. He talked about his faith. And you go back, look at the speeches, Teddy Roosevelt and George Washington, we're going all the way back. We had presidents that were not ashamed to say, hey, look, I know I'm here because God put me here for a reason. And I think, Ron, in your case, in my case, and the case of many, many, perhaps maybe all of the people watching, God has them where he wants them at this time, at this point in the history of our country. And that's the glorious part of this, the happy part of it. We're here. And Ron, if not you, if not me, if not the people watching, then who? And at what time?
We are born for this moment in time right now. That's what we are. We're born for this moment right now, for what we're doing, for standing up, fighting for our freedoms, our rights. This is our moment in time. And, we have one shot at this, because you don't get too many shots. Basically, that Ottawa, that was basically a test. And we see exactly how far the government will go when you throw the Emergency Act on your own people. It's just disgusting. You're supposed to be there for your people, so we can prosper. Same as the medication. Your job's not to force it on us. Your job is to make sure it is there if we need it, if we choose to take it. But now they're forcing stuff upon us. They go right past our Bill of Rights or Charter rights. They don't even care about it. And it's sad to say there's a lot of people that still don't understand what's going on, and they still don't see a problem with anything because of the censorship. Facebook, Twitter, they control what happens. They control the narratives. They control elections. It's the same as when election time comes out. You know, they're going to push the Democrats so hard, and anybody picks up their phone, you'll see nothing about any of the Republicans doing anything good. It's only Republicans doing bad stuff. Democrats are great. You know, I was watching Hannity last night when they had Dr. Oz on, and it's pretty simple. If you like crime in the street, raping, no money, food, can't afford gas, hey, vote Democrat. Go right ahead. Vote liberals if that's what you want. But if you want something better, well, you have to stand up and use your voices that we have. Don't be afraid to use your voice. You know, and that's the problem.
You know, Ron, what the opposition didn't have years ago, we have now, is this right here. This is the new TV, right? This is it. I mean, I've got friends, and I'm sure you have, that don't watch the news anymore on TV. They just don't watch it. But they're going to the live stream programs where they're getting to hear people like you, people like them, people on the ground who are sharing with them reality. And this is the good part of all this. You see, I always look at the glass of water half full, you know, and say, look at what we have. Look at the tools that God gave us, you know, the strength, the will, the ability to communicate. You and I would not be talking if the truckers' convoy didn't exist, if we didn't have these problems in America. And so what the Bible says is two things. One, what man meant for evil, God meant for good. But you pretty much confirmed the scripture in the Bible that says, from our womb, he knew our destiny. From our womb, he knew where we were headed and what we were to do for both God and country. And that's for everyone out there, not just because Ron and I and others like us are on the air. We're here because of you, your prayers and your help. But like Ron said, it's very important to ask yourself, what am I going to do when I wake up? I can't look, a blind woman, Ron, had called me some time ago, a long time ago, and says, look, I can't see. I can't do this. I can't do that. Can you tell me what I can do? And I says, you could pray. You could pray for us. And you know what? She actually called me sometime later and said, I want you to know I never forgot what you said, and I pray every day. That means so much to us, folks. And another thing, Ron, you mentioned about the children. If not for us, for our children. Look, we had parents that fought for us. They actually fought physically in wars, World War II, World War I. I mean, let's go all the way back to it all. They actually died for the cause of freedom and liberty. And we don't want to see our children put in that position where they're going to be on a battlefield physically fighting for their freedom and liberty. So we could stop all of this now. And I'm confident, Ron, we're going to do it. I'm confident we're going to win because we have the will, you know, we have the heart, we have the passion for freedom and liberty. Ron, I'm going to ask Alan Nicholson to rev things up. And so I've got to ask you one more thing, Ron, before we wrap things up. And I'll give you the last word. People have been asking about Project Maple Leaf. Folks, I'm going to tell you something. We have discovered things that we never expected to discover. Our plans are to wrap it up soon. January 20th, it'll go to the new U.S. Congress. As we said, it's not an investigation of your government. We're not looking to interfere with your government process. We're looking to educate the American people and the U.S. Congress, letting them clearly understand what we perceive and what we believe is a threat to the national security of the United States. And then it's going to be up to them to take it from there. We're also going to be in contact with the International Association of Police Chiefs, and we want them to look at what we've seen and what we have on video. So my point is this, folks. We're in a fight for freedom and liberty. Like I said, we're not going to interfere with anybody's government. That's up to you. You've got to deal with them, and you're dealing with them pretty effectively because there are things we're hearing and seeing that you're not, that are being brought to us by some of the media here, like Tucker Carlson and others. But there's a lot of these live streams across America. And what I'm excited about, Ron, and I'm beginning to hear more and more Americans talk about Trudeau and the words they're using to describe him. I'll tell you what, I've never heard used other than against a communist leader. And I'm not just saying that I mean that. I have not heard Trudeau's name ever mentioned until people started to learn through this medium and others what's really going on up there, and through people like you. Wrap her up there, Ron. It's your part.
Well, you said something about the glass half full. Now, is it half full, half empty? It doesn't matter. Just remember, it can be refilled. Okay, that's the most thing. It can be refilled. But in order for us to move forward, we have to stop the division. We have to let the egos go, and we need to stand together and unite. That is the only way we're going to move forward. If we continue with the division, it's going to be a hard battle. But when we stand side by side and unite together, we can move mountains, but peacefully. So like I said, I love everybody, and I just want things to be the way they're supposed to be, where we enjoy life and we talk to your neighbor, not argue with the neighbor. Don't worry about your neighbor got an expensive lawnmower. Well, you don't need to go buy one. Just borrow your neighbor's. It's simple, right? Like I said, money is everything. As long as you have a roof over your head, your family, friends, stop the division. Come together. And we can win this battle peacefully. And
Ron, I hope and pray one day I'm going to cross your border. I'm going to come to visit you and all the wonderful people of Canada, and I hope sooner rather than later. But boy, isn't it great though?
First.
What's that, Ron?
I'll probably cross your border first. I'm just waiting for you guys to lift your restrictions, and I may head down that way.
Well, we're working on that, and I think after January 20th, I hope that'll happen. But I got to tell you, it's great to have a God, a Holy Spirit that's bringing us all together. And boy, I tell you, what an opportunity! What an opportunity, folks, for us to show what faith could do, what prayer could do, what putting our faith to work can do. And as Ron has repeated, even on this broadcast, what we could do, what we could achieve by being peaceful and orderly and exercising our rights within the Constitution of the United States and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and other laws of other lands that support what we support. Ron, what an honor. It's been a real pleasure. I could tell people love this. This was great. Wonderful.
Having me on. I'll have to go back and check out the comments because I can't see any of the comments here. And, maybe we'll have to do this again another time. And,
we will.
Other than that, keep up the good work. And we'll keep sharing your videos the same as you guys do with ours. So you guys have a wonderful evening, and we'll chat with you guys a little later on.
Thank you, Ron. Let freedom ring. God bless you. Thank you very much.
God bless you too.
Thank you. All right, folks, we're waiting for Alan Nicholson to come up. And what, you look for heroes, folks. Remember to say we're all the heroes? Well, there you go, Ron Clark. All right. What a gentleman. What a good guy. Represents your country well. All right, stand by, folks, for a minute. We're going to wait for Alan Nicholson to come on, and I'll be back in a minute, all right? Let's try to find Alan. Thank you. All right, folks, we have Alan Nicholson. He's going to come on and he's going to give us an update on the Hague situation there. Alan, welcome to our broadcast.
Good evening, Lieutenant. How are you?
Alan, I don't know if you had a chance to watch this interview that I had with Ron Clark, but I got to tell you, it was great. I mean, what a representative of your country.
He is a very nice man. I've spoken to him on several occasions, and I'm hoping to do a live with him as well. So,
Wonderful. Now you'd be a great guest. All right. So as promised, we've shared with many people that are watching that we would give them updates via you about the criminal charges that are being brought to The Hague against the Trudeau government.
yes. So, what we've also done is join forces with your previous guest from last week, George from Canadian Rights Watch. So now we're also known as Canadian Rights Watch Quebec. And on the CanadianRightsWatch.com website, you are now able to go directly to the website and pick up your PDF petition sheet there, document. You can print it right off the website and go and get 20 signatures. If you do not want to leave the house for any reason, there's going to be, as of Monday, a digital document that each and any one person will be able to go and sign as well.
Alan, somebody just asked a question. I'm glad they asked this question because not everyone knows what The Hague is. Could you share with us what it is?
The Hague is also known as the International Criminal Court. That's based out of the Netherlands. And
I understand they already received a letter and they've already said they're interested.
Yes, in the month of May, the inquiry was sent to The Hague. We do have an acknowledgement of receipt. And in July, we received another reply from them. And what they also want is 100 living witnesses. So it's anybody who's living who has mental health problems today due to everything that's gone on in the past 2 years. Anybody who has lost a loved one. So we need a minimum of 100 living witnesses. And unfortunately, till today, we still only have 4. And that's myself, my wife, my son, and my 2 sons. So that's 4. So we're hoping that there'll be more living witnesses will come forward and join the fight.
Maybe some of those who were at the protest, the peaceful protest, could come forward.
Yes, anybody who's lost their job because they refused to take an injection or whatnot, you could be a living witness. Anything bad that's happened, living with side effects due to the injection, that's a living witness, and that's who we need.
Alan, I just posted your email. Can people email you to get the petition website info?
Yes. Alan at irestorefloors.ca is still the email you could send the request to get the documents, either the living witness document or the PDF itself to get signatures. But if you do not want to go and get signatures, like I said, the CanadianRightsWatch.com, you'll have a digital type document that you'll be able to sign online. And that will be available as of Monday.
Well, time to go. I can't believe a whole hour passed by. We're living in exciting times, aren't we, Alan?
I'm going to have to call Ron and tell him to cut it short next time. He's taking my time.
you know what I find really great? We're winning. We are winning. You're winning in Canada. We're winning in the United States. We're winning. And unfortunately, a lot of people are so inundated with the clouds and the rain and the bad news, but we got a lot of good news, folks, a lot of it. So stay tuned. We got a lot coming in the weeks to come. Right, Alan?
Yes, there's great news coming in the weeks to come. So just keep going and don't stop. Don't
So,
stop.
folks, Sunday night, fireside chat reminded me by Alan's wife. It was like, what's happened to fireside chat? And I said, well, and your wife said, well, what? So Sunday night, folks, you see, somebody needs to remind me of certain things. Fireside chat, 7:30 p.m. here, all right, on the broadcast platform that you're watching. Only 20 minutes to a half hour. It's a biblically based program. And I got to tell you something, it's going to be pretty tough what people are going to hear. But you're going to walk away refreshed with the living water and the bread of life that can only come from a rule book that no politician, well, I shouldn't say no, but that many politicians don't like, right here. Beautiful. All right, that's it, Alan. Thanks a lot for closing things out with me. Appreciate all the work you and your family's doing, and God bless you. And see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Alan's been really working hard. I mean, him, his wife, his family, and others with him. So that's it. So listen, Monday night we'll be back tonight in America, and boy, I'll tell you, we got a lot to report to you Monday night. Lots going on here leading up to the elections. A lot to report to you regarding America's role in the Ukraine-Russian war, and some of the information we're getting, the American people just don't like what our government is doing and why they're doing it. But we'll talk all about that Monday night. And then, of course, next week, tonight in Canada, next Thursday night. That's it, folks. Wasn't it great? Isn't it great? Isn't it great to be on the winning side, right? A lot to be happy about. A lot to be happy about. Put your head on the pillow and say, you know what? As Ron said, as Alan has said, and I have said, and others have said, God has us at the right time, at the right place to do the right thing for God and for country. Thank you all. See you next week. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers. God bless you all.